Oh, this isn't going very well.
Pottery Barn Dupes Summer Edition. Huge fan of Pottery Barn looks, not a huge fan of the price tag. Luckily, Pottery Barn has come out with a bunch of summer decor items that are totally dupeable, and I can't wait for us to recreate them together.
For our first Pottery Barn dupe, we're going to be looking at these silver and wicker napkin rings that Pottery Barn has. They're asking $50 for a set of 4, and I know we can make these for a whole lot less. So to start this DIY, I just grabbed 4 of these super tiny little seashells that I had in my collection, but if you don't have any on hand, you can often find these at the dollar store. And now to make these look more like the ones on Pottery Barn, we're just going to head on outside where there's some good ventilation, grab ourselves a can of silver spray paint, and just give the top of those seashells a quick coat of spray paint. Now to give these seashells a bit more dimension and have them looking like the ones found on the Pottery Barn website, we're just going to go in with a bit of black paint, brush that on, and then wipe it away so that the black paint sticks in the ridges of the seashell. Now, Dollar Tree has these silver plastic napkin rings with raffia in the center, and that's what we're going to be using. And it's really just as easy as taking those spray painted seashells, adding a bunch of hot glue around the edges, and then adhering that to the top front of each of the napkin rings. And then taking another look at the Pottery Barn one where they wanted $50, and in the end mine cost $1.25 because I had the spray paint and seashells. For our next Pottery Barn dupe, we're going to be creating these handcrafted oversized sea glass garland that they wanted originally $141 for, and even on sale it's $112, and I know we can make these for a whole lot less. We're going to actually be making these darker blue ones though, not the lighter blue ones. Now to start, you're just going to need a bunch of wooden skewers and something to stick them in. I'm just using a pool noodle that I've cut in half into little bits for another project, and I'm just sticking the skewers in through those. Now you might be wondering to yourself, Jenny, why are we doing this? It's because we're going to be spray painting some of Dollar Tree's Halloween eyeballs, and this is just going to make it a whole lot easier. To do this, use your hot glue gun to melt a hole into one end of each of the eyeballs, and then stick these onto the skewers. And this is just going to help make your life a whole lot easier when you're spray painting them. It'll keep them in place and you're not going to end up with a big mess. Now that those have all had a chance to dry, next you're going to go in with a bit of teal chalk paint. I'm just using Art Mine's, I believe it's called Aqua Teal, and a stenciling brush, and I'm just applying that to the one end of the plastic spray painted eyeball. Next, you're going to want to go in with a little bit, and I mean a little bit, you can see here on my brush, just a tiny amount on a really fluffy stencil brush, some navy blue chalk paint, and you're going to dab that on top of the teal paint. And while that's still wet, you're going to go back in with a bit more of that lighter teal color and just soften up the navy blue. Now sometimes with chalk paint you get this separation of pigment from paint, and this pigment is actually brilliant to use. It adds a real saturated color and a much darker teal color, and so using a stenciling brush I just dabbed a bit of this on. And then holding the plastic eyeball in the center, I just flipped it over and did the exact same to the other side, adding both the teal and the navy blue color, a bit of that saturated, separated pigment, and then softening everything up and just blending it all together until you end up with a look that you're happy with. And I mean, really, there is no right or wrong to this. It's whatever looks good to you. And then stick those on some skewers, and this is going to allow you to get those areas where your fingers were holding it. So you just go in with your stenciling brush and just lightly blend in a bit of that teal color along the center. I wouldn't put the navy blue here. I would really just focus on adding a bit of teal and letting some of that white show through. And then once again, let those dry. And then once they have dried, you're going to want to go in again with your hot glue gun and poke another hole on the bottom, and then go in with a skewer and really twist that around on both ends, making sure that those holes are going to be quite large. You're going to see why in a minute. Oh, and if you're intrigued and like what you see so far, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell below. And if a bit of white shows through once you pop those holes, just get a stenciling brush and fill in a bit more paint. Next, you're going to need some twine and an oversized sewing needle that has a large head that will let the twine slide through. And then you're just going to use this needle to poke the twine through one end into the other hole on the other side, and then just pull that twine through until it reaches the double knot that you've put at the end of the twine. And then between each of the baubles, you're going to want to use your twine to tie a double knot in between each. So add plastic bauble and double knot the twine, then add another plastic bauble and double knot the twine until you reach the end of your baubles. Now, I meant to mention this at the beginning and I forgot. I'm sorry. To start the garland and finish off the garland, you're actually going to want to use that twine to form a loop and then double knot that so that the beads stay in place. Now, this next step you could probably do earlier, but it wasn't until I was finished that I realized that, like, with the chalk paint, it just looked a bit dull. And when you look at the ones on Pottery Barn, there's a bit of a shine to them. So I just went in with a bit of Rust-Oleum clear top coat and a paintbrush and just painted over each of the baubles, and that just kind of gave it that little extra shine it really needed. Again, here's that Pottery Barn option that they wanted over $100 for, and then there's these that actually cost me nothing because I already had all of the craft supplies I needed in my craft room. For this next DIY, we're going to be recreating this Pottery Barn dupe diffuser that has a ton of texture to it. But at $112, even on sale at $67, there's just no way. So we're going to be getting this high-end look for a whole lot less. Grab yourself a bottle out of the recycling bin. I think this was an old sweet and sour sauce jar, but it's the right shape, so it will do. Now you're going to need some white chalk paint and a cup with about around a half a cup of baking soda, and you're going to add your white chalk paint to said baking soda. Now, I didn't want this to be stark white, so I'm actually going to go in with a bit of folk art chalk paint and oatmeal, but this step is completely optional, and really you could make this any color you want by simply changing out the color of your chalk paint. And then you're just going to stir the baking soda and paint mixture together until it forms sort of like a soft serve ice cream look. Now, somehow I managed to skip the footage where I paint the bottle for the first time, but you're going to want to paint the bottle for the first time. And then a little tip is wrap your paintbrush and your paint cup in some saran wrap. Put an elastic around the paint cup so that you keep that saran wrap in place. And this will keep your paint ready to go for the next time because you're going to need several layers of this chalk paint on this bottle to get the look we're going for. So let it dry thoroughly and then go in with another coat, and really I think I added 3 or 4 coats of paint to this. And on your last coat, you're really going to want to apply that coat quite thickly. Now, as you're doing this, you might start to get a little concerned. It gets a bit gloopy and a bit messy because you've added so much paint. Now, you could try adding a bit more baking soda to your paint mixture if you wanted. I didn't. As you're about to see, I did panic just a little bit. Oh, this isn't going very well. But I don't want you to panic. So my advice would be let it dry that last coat just a bit until it becomes tacky, and then go in with a skewer, and that will make adding your texture a whole lot easier than if you try to add it to the really wet paint. Okay, and we're going to need some diffuser oil for this diffuser, so we're going to DIY that as well. You're going to need some reed diffuser sticks. I got these ones from Amazon for under $10, a funnel, some sweet almond oil, some essential oils. I'm just using some sage ones that I've had for a long time and they need to get used up, our diffuser bottle, and something to help that almond oil go up those sticks. So I'm just using this big giant bottle of spirits we have here that we've had for so many years and I never use, so we're going to use it in this. So super easy. You're just going to want to stick the funnel into that bottle and then pour some of your almond oil 1/3 to halfway up the bottle. Then we're going to want to add our essential oil. You're going to want to add about 25 to 35 drops. So I'm using 2 different types of sage essential oil here. So I'm going to do 15 drops or so row of each. Then to dilute it a bit and help that oil go up those reeds, we're just going to add about a teaspoon of the spirits. Then simply add enough reeds to fill the hole, and there you go. Now there's that Pottery Barn one again, $112 regular, $67 on sale, and we made ours for next to nothing because the bottle was free, the baking soda from the kitchen and the reeds under $10, and you get like 150 of them. For this next Pottery Barn dupe, we're going to be trying to make one of these Nantucket outdoor planters. We're going for the long shape, but we're going to make it without handles like these ones here. And to recreate this, you're just going to need a bucket that's the same shape as that long planter. I just found this one at Dollarama for $4.50, and I think it's going to do just fine. And to start off with, you're going to give it, I think I gave it 3 coats of white chalk paint. Now you're painting on plastic, and even though you're using chalk paint, it doesn't always adhere that well, so let it dry overnight before you give it your second and third coat. You're going to need a little bit of light gray chalk paint. I'm just using Art Minds in gray wool. I love this color. And with a medium-sized paintbrush, just add strokes of this gray color and then wet distress it with a damp cloth. You're not really wanting this gray color to stand out a lot, so if you find in some areas it goes on dark, just add a bit of white paint and then wet distress that. And again, there is no right or wrong way to apply this gray color. Just add it to where you think it looks best and distress it to your liking. Let that dry, and then we're going to go in with some Rust-Oleum top coat and just give that a couple of nice coats. For a finishing touch, you're going to want to drill some drainage holes into the bottom of your container. Add our plants, and voila! I have to admit, out of the 5 DIY dupes, this one's my least favorite, but I want to know what you think. These Pottery Barn frosted seaside candles are absolutely gorgeous, but at $28 for a small one and $98 for the large, and that's on sale, no. Just no. So to get this look for less, there's a few options. One option, head to IKEA. There you'll find these candles in glass containers. The large one costs $10 and the small one, it's $3.99, but I got it for sale in the discount center for $2.79. One of the things I liked about the larger one is that the glass was actually frosted, which made it look even more like the Pottery Barn one. But I also found these ones at the grocery store for buy one, get one 50% off. They came with a lid, and as long as you can remove the labels and underneath is a clear glass jar, it'll work perfectly. And if you're in Canada or have access to a Dollarama, you'll find these glass candles there for $4.50, and all you're going to need to do is remove the label. To start this project, you're going to grab some navy blue chalk paint and a fluffy stencil brush and apply the chalk paint to the bottom part of your candle holder, making it look like waves. You're going for an ocean look here. Next, you're going to want to grab a different stenciling brush and some teal chalk paint. I have Antique Aqua from Art Minds here, and we're just going to use that stenciling brush to pounce some of that teal paint over top of the blue paint, not completely, focusing more on the bottom and center areas, but again, there's no right or wrong, and you're just trying to create a look that you find appealing and to you looks like waves. Work back and forth between the two colors, adding a little bit of that navy blue on top just to soften that teal. And then let that dry completely before we go on to our next step. For this next step, you're going to need some Mod Podge and a stenciling brush, and then you're just going to apply this Mod Podge to the bottom part of your candle holder in a random pattern, covering up some of that teal, but also letting some of the teal and the navy blue really pop through. You're also going to need some white vase filler sand. I have this one from Michael's, but I also have a whole bunch more in this Ziploc bag, and I'm just sprinkling it on top of the decoupage and then shaking it off. Now on this part here, adding that Mod Podge to the bottom, but I'm also working it up a little bit to the top, and then adding some more of that white sand so that it mimics the look of the white caps on a wave. To seal everything in, I went with some Folk Art Select seal. I've looked everywhere. I can't find anything that says this is flammable, but again, user beware. And I decanted it into this other spray bottle because I'm always clogging mine, and then put my candle on a turntable and then just sprayed the entire candle until it was all coated with the seal. Then I went in with a damp rag and wiped away any of the spray that maybe got to the bottom of the candle, and also lifted up the candle, and then using that damp cloth again, I just wiped away any of the seal that was on the glass. And then let those dry. Now here's the Pottery Barn ones again, remembering they wanted $30 to $100 for these, and then here's our finished look.
If you enjoyed those, make sure you subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. If you hit the notification bell, it'll let you know the next time I upload. Oh, and you might enjoy these.